Freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right.
The government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
My name is S.M. Gibson, and you are listening to Anti-Media Radio. 49 years ago today, April the 4th, 1968. And it is a major reason why I don't believe anything that the United States government says in any way, shape, or form. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee at the Lorraine Motel. It came out in 1999 that the government was involved in a conspiracy. Martin Luther King III, his own son, says he does not believe that James Earl Ray was involved in the assassination. Well, at least did not fire the gun, I'll say that much. And I think anybody with a brain that's ever looked into it should feel the same way. But it's a very solemn day historically, and it's a very solemn day with what's going on in the news right now. And we're going to get to all of it and more tonight. Right now, I want to bring on two of our co-hosts. Ladies first, Miss Josie Wells. How you doing, Josie?
I'm good. How are you doing tonight?
Cannot complain. And Shannon Madden. Shannon, what is up?
What's going on, guys? How y'all this evening?
Same old same, just trying to keep up with everything that's going on in the news. I'll say that.
Yeah, and there is quite a bit to talk about, particularly Yemen, what has been going on in Syria. The whole Middle East is just absolutely, I mean, in more turmoil than even more so, particularly now that the noise has been turned up about, hey, we got to get rid of Assad. We got to get rid of Assad. See, we told you Assad is behind these attacks. We are almost 100% convinced of it.
Yeah, and it's oddly a little, of course, as always, it's a bit more convoluted than that. And also we're going to talk a little bit about the Susan Rice crap too, just because it's hilarious. And of course he was spied on. No kidding, everybody's spied on. What a shock. Speaking of Trump, but you, Shannon, mentioning what's going on in Syria. Just last week, Nikki Haley, now the ambassador to the UN, and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson came out and were like, we're going to let Syria deal with Assad. That's their problem. That's what's going to happen. We're going to let them deal with it. So, and I think we even talked about it on the show. It may have been me and you, Josie, talking about it last week.
Yeah, we did.
And so this morning, before the chemical attacks and all that, or I guess it was yesterday that it happened, Nikki Haley and Tillerson both, everybody kind of started flipping their opinion on it. And Nikki Haley said something to the effect of, yeah, well, we're going to let them decide, but it's pretty obvious they don't want him there. So she was kind of backtracking on we're going to let them deal with it by just kind of saying, well, we're going to let them sort it out, but they don't want him, so we'll see where that takes us. And then now we have possibly, quote unquote, sarin attacks, what appears to be some sort of chemical attack, very reminiscent of what happened in 2013. There's a lot of ways to look at this, but it seems fishy to me. The first thing to say is the victims of what happened. It's just an absolute travesty. What those people have to endure, no matter what side did it, no matter who's involved, no matter what.
And not only did they have to go through the attacks, not only did they endure a chemical attack, they were shuttled to the hospital, and then the hospitals endured attack in some regions.
Yeah, the whole thing's just absolutely barbaric, no matter who's involved. And you have to remember that these aren't just chess pieces on the board, which is how they're clearly used for political reasons. Again, no matter which side it is. But, of course, I opened the show with talking about how the U.S. government lies about stuff. And now they're saying, just like they did in 2013, that this is clearly Assad. And, of course, we know what that means. Regime change, because that's always what it is. Now, for people who don't keep up with the other side of it, because we know that mainstream media doesn't tell anybody anything other than the official line, Russia has 100% denied this. Syria has 100% denied this. Syria did, though, admit to having its Su-22 planes fly over and bomb that area, and they said that there was 100% not chemical attack. So they do admit to attacking the region in one way, shape, or form. And ironically enough, those airplanes, from what I've researched and looked into, and I'm not Justin King here, so I could possibly be wrong, but from what I've seen is they're not able to be equipped with chemical weapons. So who knows? It's more convoluted garbage. Reasons for war.
Yeah, it is horrible, and especially as Shannon mentioned, that the double tap strategy of, waiting until the victims get to the hospital or until first responders get to the victims and then attacking again, so that not only are the first round of victims suffering, now you have all of these people who are trying to help them, they're just annihilated. I think the hospital was pretty much wiped out. So there's no one to, there's not even nurses and doctors available to help. It's just so savage and so brutal that right now I can't imagine what, and then, a lot of people will jump right to it being a false flag. And I think that almost discredits a lot of the suffering that is definitely going on over there. It's just so horrible that right now it's, to even point fingers is like, wait a minute. Okay, let's try to figure this out first, because it is like we say all the time, it's so convoluted that no matter who's behind it, it's just so savage and so brutal and so unacceptable.
That's it.
There's so many fingers that you can point here too. There's so many different directions that you could look in as far as a plausible reason why they would attack that region or what have you. Politically, as far as military strategy goes, I mean, anybody could have done it. We could have done it. The United States, when I say we,
right?
Russia could have had a hand in it. Saudi Arabia. I mean, there's so many different fingers that you can point in, and at the end of the day, it still doesn't bring these people back to life.
It doesn't. And it is actually important to eventually definitely try to figure out who did it, but because that is that's mass murder, that's very, very serious war crimes, and whoever did it should be brought to justice. It's just a matter of figuring it out. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Okay, here's the thing though, and this is what the United States wants to do. They did the exact same thing in 2013, especially with the likes of, it's the figurehead here. We'll know which demographic of politics we're talking about, but John McCain. he's always up on the forefront when this kind of stuff happens and say, go blow the country away. We need regime change. And there's a whole section of Republicans and Democrats that do that. Now, we see them immediately jump out when something like this happens and go, oh, this is terrible, let's go blow them away. Of course it's terrible. And people need to remember how just horrible it is. But for the United States, how dare these politicians sit here and say, oh, this is about human rights because we so care about human rights. And you turn around and go to the south of Syria and look at what's going on in Yemen and what they're allowing Saudi Arabia to do and what we have been complicit of and we're involved in as well, not just of funding Saudi Arabia, which we've done, and armed Saudi Arabia, which we've done, but we've carried out our own strikes there. And how anybody can say with a straight face, oh, we so care about the human suffering in Syria, and just not only ignore what's happening in Yemen, but encourage it and allow it to continue and push it further into the chaos that it is while it's mass famine, mass disease. And this is like, you think about, okay, well, there's all these innocent people, civilians, children, women, whatever, getting blown up in airstrikes. But think about the people that are left behind from the airstrikes and what the suffering they're having to go through. The horrible, terrifying part of this is the people that are dying in the airstrikes just immediately, they're going out easier than the people that are left behind to rot away and die.
I guess the only people left behind are the ISIS that they keep trying to bomb, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we're going to keep bombing because apparently there's a lot more ISIS in the area. But meanwhile, we still keep hearing about civilian deaths. That's all we hear about from that region, civilian deaths. And it's heartbreaking. It really is.
But how can they say with a straight face that they want to protect the Syrian people, so we need to blow their country away? And as we blow the people away of Yemen, it's just like, yeah, well, we got to keep doing it. Whatever. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, that's how politics has been since the beginning of time. It's disgusting.
And yet there's people that still believe this. There's people that still buy into the propaganda. There's people that still follow these people. And it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying there's millions of them. That's why the government still has the power that it does. That's why all the world governments have the powers, because they've done such a good job of manipulating the truth and people's perspective on what is actually happening. That, if everyone thought I like to think that if everyone thought the way we did, we'd hopefully it would make it a lot easier for us to organize, because we wouldn't have to battle our own friends and family in conversations about it, and we'd all be on the same side, and we'd think, hey, if we're all seeing this, then maybe we can all do something about this, and rather than trying to convince people that these are atrocities and that way more civilians than terrorists. I mean, just an obscene ratio of civilians to actual terrorists are being annihilated, murdered. It is just mass murder it's so blatant and so obvious. And the fact that we have to convince people of that still just goes to show how effective world governments are at their propaganda.
And their propaganda is so thin. It really is. It's gotten down to the point where, there's not even much propaganda anymore. It's pretty much just, hey, this is what we're going to go do. Deal with it. It
is. It's got.
Really. Think about all of these skirmishes in the Middle East. None of us, even voting Americans, none of us really had a voice in this whatsoever as far as what level of involvement we were going to have since we first invaded Iraq back in the 90s.
Right. Here's the really, really frustrating part for me, and there's tons of it from a multifaceted angles here that is frustrating, and I don't understand. But especially today being today, April the 4th, and with Martin Luther King, you ask people whether it's about, and whatever the truth is on any of these stories that people may believe, But do you believe the government lied about Kennedy? Well, yeah. Do you believe the government lied about King? Well, yeah, probably. Do you believe the government lied about Vietnam? Yes. Do you believe the government lied about Iraq? Yes. You're even getting people in the mainstream whispering, like behind closed doors. Do you think the government lied about 9/11? They'll go, yeah, but they just don't want anybody to know it, that they believe that. So people will acknowledge that the government has lied over and over and over about these major events. Spanning the decades, and yet they believe, well, they wouldn't lie to us. I heard it on TV. I heard it on CNN.
See, I think that's more of a justification for them not having to do anything, because it's much easier to not have to do something, and the only reason that anyone would have to do something is if they don't believe what the government's putting out. So I think a lot of people don't, but it's just easy to not do anything about it. So if they
look at all the Obama supporters that didn't open their mouth for 8 years. They were just enraged over the lies that Bush and Cheney told over Iraq, as they well should have been. Mm-hmm. But as Obama carried out $115 billion to Saudi Arabia, bombed 8 different countries, nobody opened their mouth, nobody said a word.
And that right there, in and of itself, proves that it's not actually about what's right or versus what's wrong.
Right.
All it's about is my team won. Sure. That's it. That's all.
Of course. So that now, people are speaking up, but they're not. It stops at doing something, because a lot of people who are now speaking up and all of a sudden noticing these wars, because it's not, a Democrat dropping these bombs and ordering the airstrikes and backing Saudi Arabia. Well, it stopped. They can voice their concern, and that's activism, right? That's activism, and they're doing something about it. But do they think that what they're doing is basically just getting another person in office? It's just more government. So there's never any action or doing anything. It's just saying a thing. It's
and that's it. I mean, you spelled it out in a nutshell. Going to a polling place and voting, that's pretty much the extent of activism in modern day America, particularly for your flag waving Americans. Apple pie and American flag, hanging from the mailbox. That's it. I mean, it's just, I give up. I'm going to let you people deal with all that. I'll give you whatever money you ask of me. I'll go ahead and run down the polling place and wear my little sticker for a day.
No, didn't you hear, Shannon? They had a big women's march like the weekend after Trump got elected, and people were pink hats, and nothing changed because they accomplished nothing, because there was no real objective. They're going to apparently on April the 15th protest Trump's tax returns, and guess what? Nothing's going to be accomplished. The people are easily misdirected and misled down these paths of distractions, and we've seen every person that has railed against Trump taking all these people for a ride on this Russia garbage. It's just like they're still distracting you. They're against Trump, but they're distracting you from this horrible stuff Trump's doing by talking about his Twitter feed or this Russia conspiracy crap. And it's even gotten to the point with this Russia stuff that if you even say, hey, wait a second, y'all sound a bit hysterical here. Oh, well, you're in on it too. If you even question what they're doing, then you're in on the conspiracy. People are so driven with emotion, and you can get people to protest on emotion when it does involve those two teams. But what do you see actually accomplished? Why can't we get people? Why couldn't we say that women's march that was the weekend after Trump? Why couldn't they all been out there saying, all right, guess what? Bring all the troops home now. There's people dying needlessly. Why can't you direct that energy for something that will completely change the world for a better, instead of just patting yourself on the back for a weekend?
Well, and you know what I think happened? I think eventually, from these larger protests, there will be a change. Whether or not, I happen to like the change that occurs is another thing. But I think what happened with the Occupy rallies all over the country. Now, that the Occupy rallies in and of itself didn't do anything. But from those rallies, I watched so many smaller groups, get together and organize and do things that have had huge ramifications, like smaller groups, and especially like in Philadelphia in the decentralization movement and like disruptive technology. It's amazing. I think the smaller groups, smaller organized, focused groups, can accomplish so much more when they put emotion aside and set a goal. And I think that a lot of that's actually happening, right now that I don't think we acknowledge this enough, is that there are a lot of really good people out there working really hard every single day in an organized, focused manner, so that there will be, there are places that we can go and communities that we can reach out to for support, and, just to learn about ways to live without depending on the government. I don't think that we acknowledge that enough. But when going back to the larger protests that are definitely emotion based and emotion driven, they don't accomplish much. They usually just they end up causing more division in the short term. But if people wanted to make a change, and if they want to make the positive change, they need to start organizing and pick one goal, not just rage at the world, for no reason, not for no reason, but for, they don't, it's hard to explain, but you know what I mean.
I think you said it. It's people need to set, okay, we want to accomplish this thing, whatever it is. And I think personally the foreign policy is the biggest issue because we're broke as a country.
Right.
And we're spending so much overseas. It would change things domestically. It would change things foreign policy-wise, clearly. I think it would be the most drastic thing you could do to radically change things for the better overnight. And then you can deal with everything else after that. But it would be first off, the signal that would send would be massive, and I think it would resonate across the world. And again, there's all these, you get people that are so, they've bought into all this fear that, they're coming to get us, the terrorists are coming to get us. It's like, well, once you stop dropping bombs on their heads, they're not going to bother you anymore. Not that they're even coming here and doing stuff now. And wait a second, speaking of terrorism, I wanted to make sure to bring this up. The attack in Russia. All these people anywhere. We're going to have flags up on our Facebook profiles. We're going to mourn the victims. Happens in Russia. People get killed senselessly. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I actually didn't even hear about that until someone, I guess, who was it? I think it was my brother. I can't remember. Texted me and asked about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, because after I finished, work, I turn my phone off and I just go. I go out and hike and that kind of stuff. So I didn't even know about it. And then I heard about it. I'm like, why have we not been talking about that more? Why has that not been even discussed?
I mean, there was nothing about it yesterday, hardly at all. I didn't see anything at all on any of the major news channels. Not that I watched them religiously all day. I just checked in a few times to even see if they were discussing it, and they weren't. We had a story up on the front page of antimedia.org for most of the day, and then we had a feed embedded in the story of, I'm going to say the horrible two letters of RT, because they were actually covering what was happening.
Right.
Where people could watch and see what was going on. But yeah, you think about how people react to things like that. And then, it goes to show you how propaganda-driven things are. Because as horrible as this is to say, you can understand, like, if it was in Yemen or something like that, which that stuff happens clearly every day by U.S.-made bombs, you kind of understand why people not caring, because, they've been this, we hate Muslims, we fear Muslims, has been driven into people's head, and we know how people are, as bad as it is. But this is like Russia, a Western style major city, subway, metro, and guess what? White people, but that fear has been driven into them. They don't care. Didn't bother them. CNN sure wasn't going to report about it. the division is insane to me. And that's what it all boils down to on any of this, on any, whether you're talking Democrats, Republicans, Russia, United States, Middle East, and whatever. It's all senseless division that's rooted in fear because people are too emotionally weak to see what's actually going on and take a stand for something. They're just pushed and pulled in all these directions because some guy on TV said so. And if he's on TV, then he must know what he's talking about. It's infuriating to me, the propaganda that people buy into. They have no regard for real human life until it hits their front doorstep. That's how I see it. And maybe I'm overshooting it, but.
Well, I think it is. And a lot of us, I guess, were lucky enough to have seen through that from a younger age, and I think a lot of that is circumstance too. Because I don't know, if I had a different upbringing and I was, surrounded by, other people who also kind of just definitely who had a lot of faith in the news and in the government and a lot more of a, I don't even want to say, more of a nationalistic upbringing. I don't know how. I'd like to think I would still be the same, but I don't know for sure. So I think that's why, we have sites like, the Anti-Media and all these other independent outlets, because that's our job. Our job is to try to break that and try to bring this information to people who may not have had, the opportunity to see the other side of it. And you'd like to think, with in the age of information that everyone should, but we're also in an age of information that has, algorithms that curate people's news feeds to show them what they want to see. And it's been that way for the last, 5 years. So the more important it's getting for people to actually see both sides, the less they're seeing the opposite side. It's crazy, but I try to give people the benefit of the doubt just because I don't know, I don't know how I'd be, So you're right. It is really, really frustrating, but that it's our job to fix it, I guess.
And I think the election proved a lot of what you just said too. I think people lived in these bubbles that, well, clearly Hillary's going to win. They said it on CNN, yada, yada, yada. And one of the big tip-offs for me going into the election were just if you went on Twitter and you looked at the comments under whatever it was that Trump tweeted, and you looked at the comments under whatever it was that Hillary tweeted. Under Trump, for the most part, it was pro-Trump people. You'd get a couple people name calling him here and there, but you had a lot of pro-Trump people. And then you would go to Hillary's, every single comment was, "You're a horrible, evil witch. Why are you running?"
Well, and it's kind of funny too, because that is kind of one of the reasons that some people actually voted for Trump. People that were a little bit kind of on our side of the fence about, how we feel about politics, which I don't know about y'all, but I stayed out of the polls this time out and every time out.
I think we all did, but I think he did sucker some people in too.
Absolutely, and the way he did it was, and you just spelled it out. The tweets that we saw from Hillary were from her staff. They were something from one of Hillary's little hill bots that she has over there, and we're going to make a statement about this, and there's a discussion about it, and they just go through a couple drafts and finally put it up on her Twitter account. Donald Trump is Donald Trump. That is coming from the fingertips and the mind of Donald Trump. He's a man for the people, of the people, or at least that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah, and Vince McMahon got together and figured out how to win an election. Everybody thinks I say that jokingly, but 2 days ago, Donald Trump tweeted out one of the announcers from WWE's appearance. First off, why is there an announcer from WWE on Fox Business talking anything? But, of course, that's the world we live in. And then Trump tweeted it out. We are in that level. It is. I'm telling people, he used that as a strategy. There's a reason Linda McMahon is in his cabinet. Vince helped him orchestrate that because they know how to get a mass audience to cheer something and to boo something.
Because again, it goes right back to what I said earlier. It's all about my team won. Yep. It's all about the hero and the heel. That's it.
It's about branding. It's about branding that. It's about branding the hero, and it's about branding the heel. That's it.
Of course, the problem is at the last election, we got stuck with two heels.
Yes. Well, the last one. When was I don't remember an election we didn't get stuck with.
Oh, man. Mitt Romney was. No, wait a minute. No, he wasn't. Never mind.
But I want to throw.
I remember growing up in the '80s when we were in the tail end of the Cold War. My family was very Republican. Dad has voted straight ticket Republican for as long as I can remember. He even suckered me into it once, but we'll go into that some other day. And even back then, once I started looking into why the United States was pissy with Russia and vice versa, and this, that, and the other, when it was finally asked to go ahead and let's go ahead and tear down that wall, man. Let's go ahead and let's put this, let's go ahead and put this thing to rest.
You didn't hear they're just moving that wall. They're just moving it from Berlin, taking about 2 decades, and then putting it up at the Mexican-U.S. border.
Si, senor. So yeah, I mean, and even back then it was, what is this for? What is all this division for? These people are just trying to live their lives and do what they want to do, and so on and so forth. And their government is not great. Our government isn't great. But if I had to pick one or the other right now, just based on, I don't know how many military installations we have currently around the world and how many active wars that we're involved in. Not military engagements, the soft sell, but no, actual wars where people are dying at the hands of American tax dollars. American tax dollars go to fund these wars.
They're dying because they can't handle all the freedom that's being thrown their way. Haven't you heard?
All the votes at the polls. All those votes at the polls, well, this is what you voted for. Okay, well, we'll vote different and change it. Okay, so we vote different, but it doesn't change.
No, well, I don't,
Hope and change. Remember that? Remember all that hope and change? All that hope and change, the only change that we saw there was, no, we need to get more militarily active in the Middle East. Let's double down. And now we're tripling down, quadrupling down.
I want to mention this real quick because we are talking about war and the military complex. I guess everybody has heard that North Korea fired off some more missiles today. Went about 40 miles. And then Tillerson issued a statement that's very short, and I want to read this.
Yeah, it's chilling.
Yeah, North Korea launched yet another intermediate range ballistic missile. The United States has spoken enough about North Korea. We have no further comment. That's it. That's the whole statement. And then, of course, was it Trump out there saying, we don't have to deal with China. We can take care of this ourselves. And that was before, I guess, they fired this missile today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's bad news. That's really, really bad news going after North Korea because of who is backing them on some level.
Now let's go ahead and straighten something out for the listeners at home. Let's get this straight. North Korea fired a missile at what?
I don't know, just for basically, I guarantee you why he did it. He fired it so he could put it on TV and everybody can. And he probably said, "Oh, we're at war. We fired this missile. Great, we're doing these great things." Because that's
so. How many children died from this missile strike? Is what I'm getting at.
I think it hit Syria. Did you not hear? I think it hit Syria. There was it went all the way from North Korea and hit Syria the other day.
Mystery solved, man. That great detective work, Mr. Gibson.
Figured it out. Got to go to war with everybody.
Oh, they hit into waters near Japan.
Waters, so nobody died.
Yeah, they launched another ballistic missile into waters near Japan. Is what I'm just looking at NPR right now.
Right, like near like 3 miles off the coast, 20 miles off the coast, 500 miles off the coast.
So South Korea and the U.S. confirmed North Korea launched a single ballistic missile at a facility near Sinpo at 6:42 a.m. Wednesday, Seoul time. It landed in the waters near Japan. Let's see. U.S. Pacific Command's initial assessments indicate the type of missile was a KN-15 medium-range ballistic missile. It was North Korea's fourth attempted missile launch of the year. The third failed at launch. I don't know what they were trying to hit.
Maybe they weren't trying to hit anything, and really we shouldn't care about it.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
It just looks like the North Korea's, setting off fireworks. I really don't know. I don't know what's happening.
That's exactly what, that's my point. So, here we are wholesale, a wholesale slaughter over in the Middle East right now. Have been for years and years and years. It's kind of a old theme at this point. And now we're all getting in a big, giant, huge tizzy because North Korea fired a rocket into the ocean.
Yeah, because they're waving sparklers around.
God bless.
Well, I'm off the map. Put a parking lot there. Isn't that what people say? We're going to put a parking lot there.
Yeah, or a helicopter pad.
Oh, man. And yet, you know what? There's people in this country right now that are like, get them. Get them.
Yeah.
I told you they were trouble. We should have got them years ago.
Years ago. Why have we allowed this to happen for so long? It really would make more sense if they blame stuff in Syria on North Korea. It really would. You could get two birds with one stone. It'd be great. Because again, it's all theater, except people die, and there's evil people writing the scripts. It's disgusting.
And we pay for the whole thing. Remember that when you go to work tomorrow, everybody.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think the over-under is that we actually get into a conflict with North Korea? Does anybody really...
China's not going to have any part of that, my
friend.
Right,
that's what I'm saying.
You go nip that in the bud right now.
We're hearing all this talk right now, and I get it. Yeah. Y'all got words. But are they really going to go to war with North Korea? Because that is the dumbest idea. Of all the stupid ideas these people have, that is possibly the dumbest.
No, go ahead and say, let's call it what it is, going to war with China. That's right. That's never going to happen. People don't
realize that the Chinese military has as many people in their army as we have in our country. Do people comprehend this? That what would happen? It wouldn't be pretty.
No, it doesn't sound like it now. My God. The U.S. government's crazy.
Yeah, it's not good. I will say a little bit off the topic, and maybe is this positive? I don't know. Rand Paul and Ron Wyden introducing a bill that would stop warrantless phone searches at the border. I guess it's good news that there's two people in the Senate that are actually trying to do something in the right direction, but I guess it's bad news that they're stopping people and searching their phones for absolutely no reason. And we're talking people that are American citizens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We already scared Canada off. Canada won't even let their kids come here anymore. They're like, we're not letting you go home. Their schools have stopped sending. They won't book any more school trips here.
Because they all have guns down there, eh?
They released a statement. It was the Toronto school board district. They released a statement saying that they were afraid that if the kids would be stopped, even if they had, it said right in the statement, he said, we can't be assured that even with the proper documentation that people will not be detained, that your children won't be detained. So we're not booking any more trips to the United States for the time being.
And it's that's the largest school district in Canada too, by the way. It's not just it's not just one little school district did something.
It's massive. And the Girl Scouts, their equivalent, I forget what they're called, but they're equivalent of the Girl Scouts as well. They won't book any more trips. They've stopped all of their school trips. I think, but as far as the school district is concerned, if they already booked the trip, then they're going to try but they left with a warning that should any of the children or staff be detained or rejected for no grounds. They repeated it. It was so funny how they made it very obvious that American border control is a little insane, and they'll detain people for no reason. So it is terrifying that only two lawmakers are trying to stop this out of all of them. It's terrifying.
Well, I will say for this, that's in the Senate. There's another bipartisan effort in the House to pass the same bill through the House too.
Oh, good.
But does anybody really think these are going to be passed? I would love for them to, but I don't.
I don't know. I mean,
more importantly, this shouldn't have even come up as a law or some sort of need that we should have some sort of legislation over to begin with.
Right, exactly. This shouldn't really be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't even see why there needs to be a law about it. You just go ahead and send down a memo, hey, stop doing it or you're going to lose your job, the end. Just like when we go to work and we do something that our employer doesn't want us to do or something that, is kind of illegal.
Well, you got to remember the Fourth Amendment doesn't exist anymore. The entire Constitution doesn't exist.
Oh, man, yeah, I keep forgetting
But the Fourth Amendment's really, way out the window on every single level. And that brings us to, what do y'all think about this Susan Rice business? Speaking of being able to go through stuff and people being surveilled, any opinions on Susan Rice and yada, yada, yada?
I was going through it, and I reported one on I kind of vaguely touched on it for headlines today, during our headlines today, and I still am kind of confused about how all of this went down. What exactly happened?
It was reported that it was Susan Rice by Mike Cernovich initially, which, everybody has their opinions on him and don't take him seriously, especially CNN and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So he reported that it was Susan Rice doing all this with the Obama administration and the one going after and unmasking the Trump contacts and the people in the campaign. And so then it was later reported by, oh my gosh, the guy's name just went out of my head. Eli. Oh, well, it's irrelevant.
No,
Eli.
All this I kind of get, but number one, how did Mike Cernovich find this out? Where did he get this information? Who? Go ahead.
Apparently, other people have been sitting on this information for a week. Multiple reporters have apparently been sitting on it, and because it would kind of vindicate Trump a little bit, they weren't going to report it. Apparently, NBC had it and wouldn't report it. So I think it was kind of out there, and he stumbled across it. How he stumbled across it, I don't know. Maybe we should have him on and ask him, but I would probably prefer not to. But so anyway, and then they, of course, the entire time leading up to this, though, and I think this is the important part, it was saying, well, if they came across anybody in Trump's administration, it's because it was from counter surveillance with foreign, blah, blah, blah. They're spying on Russia, and that Trump's people shouldn't have been talking to Russians. Well, we know one thing is that this wasn't had to do with counterintelligence. They admitted that
right. It was specifically targeted Trump, his team, his associates, and they found nothing illegal, between Trump and his associates. But they just basically what Susan Rice did was she unmasked who, what people.
I don't know if the actual names have all been revealed yet, and I could be out of the loop on that. But I don't think.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. That's the one piece of information. Okay, this is important, but the most important part was who's being unmasked, what information is being released. That is the most important part to me, and I haven't found that yet.
But she admitted, and they're saying, of course, that she didn't have the capacity to legally do this. I think when they say unmask, and this is me, okay, if they're unmasking something, then they're just saying, well, we're taking the names off of surveillance. What that sounds like to me is because everybody's has, like we've said for a long time, everybody in this country, there's surveillance on them. And if people believe, for whatever reason, that they're not doing it to Trump, they're crazy. And it doesn't matter if it was Trump, if it was Bernie Sanders, whatever your politics, if they're running for the president of the United States, you better believe that they're reading and listening to every communication actively. They just are.
Of course, Donald Trump was the one in defense of surveillance who said, I'm going to butcher the quote, but he said that he was under the assumption that every time he picked up the phone, someone was listening to him. This was
Of course they were.
Yeah. But this was before, and this is way before. This is when he was on the campaign trail defending surveillance. You know, he's trying to downplay it and make it seem like it wasn't a big deal. But now it is a big deal to him because it happened to him. When in reality, in his mind, it's just power that he's going to be able to wield in the future.
I think so, but Trump definitely promoted mass surveillance while he was on the campaign trail. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why all these people are acting like this didn't happen when it obviously did happen. You know what I'm saying?
It's just weird to me that any of it is a big deal. It's like, yeah, well, the government's been spying on people, obviously, for quite some time. I don't know why. It's like I think the surprise to them is that they think they're immune. Like because they either, work within the government or what. That is the reason that this is such a big deal in the news right now. It's boggling my mind that they can stand behind, American people being spied on by the government. And there's this huge scandal around Donald Trump being surveilled by the government. Like, this is so crazy to me.
Well, I tell you why I think why it's become such a big deal is because, and especially CNN, they're running these reports and they're literally putting across the bottom of the screen or saying verbally over and over, this isn't true. He has no evidence of this. This is crazy. And because it's Trump, and it's a wedge they can drive in between Trump and make him look more foolish and crazier, and that he's just saying these crazy things. There's no evidence. And they repeat, there's no evidence. This isn't true. Today, Don Lemon, when talking about Susan Rice, they said, we're not going to insult the intelligence of our viewers and report on the Susan Rice thing. Like, are you kidding me?
I know.
So I think the media is very, very guilty in a lot of this. And they've stirred up a lot of this. Because all the media would have had to have done, they could have made it go away overnight. They could have been like, well, look, we know the NSA has their program, that he wasn't actively targeted, the end. But no, they sit there and call him a liar over and over and over. That fuels his supporters, that fuels him. It creates more division, and more importantly, it creates more distraction. And nobody's talking about the actual important things. They're talking about something and bickering over something that we all know the truth of. We all know it. And the unmasking, I take it as she went over to the NSA and says, okay, we need all this people's info. The end. Like, it was pretty easy, Yeah,
it just seems so... The whole thing is just so silly to me. It's like, okay, yeah, they were spying on him. They spy on everyone. Cool. Okay, that's literally... Isn't that like... I don't know. I really have nothing else to say about it.
Josie, this whole story kind of reminded me a little bit of something that happened here in Alabama a few years back. We had a state lawmaker that was driving down one of our interstates and got pulled over by one of these little small town cops that had set a speed trap up at one of the exits near their, probably the only exit for the little small town. And he got pulled over, and the lawmaker was asking or questioning why he even had the ability to write a ticket on a national state highway. That was supposed to be the Alabama State Trooper's job. So what he did in revenge, he went down to Montgomery, which is our capital here, And he crafted a bill and actually got it passed that your town's population had to have, I think it was 50,000 or more or something like that, to be able to patrol the interstates and actually be able to write tickets. So if your town has less than the 50,000, then you stay off the interstates. That's Alabama State Trooper's job. And this really smacks of that on a much grander scale, of course. Okay, well, yeah, everybody's spied on it. It's cool. I think people need to be spied on more. Wait a minute, I was spied on? Oh, that's it. Bet somebody's going to pay for this.
Yeah, let's change the laws. Let's change everything.
Yep, let's change the laws. Let's put more legislation, and let's go ahead and create more need for government.
Oh, my God. What? It's just so...
But you know that there's people out there listening, and there's people all across this country that are like, they're Russians. They're in... I just can't believe that. They're Russian shields. How dare they say that they were spying on Trump? Obama would never have done that. People think that. Like, that goes through people's head, and those people think that they're really intelligent.
I don't know.
How elitist people are with it. And I don't know if you keep up with it on Twitter, but it's just insane, the stuff that people think. And the signs that they have taken and the lines that they've drawn, which are ridiculous. First off, who cares with any of it? Look, the facts are the facts with this stuff. And yet, it seems for every news cycle, the facts completely change.
I know. It's absurd.
Everybody's getting spied on 3 weeks ago, and, a week after that, nobody's getting spied on. How dare you insinuate that? And, it changes over and over and over and over and over. Look, last week, Syria, they're fine. We'll let them deal with Assad. This week, take it over, blow them up.
Oh my gosh. Meanwhile, in Sweden now, that's another story that's on the front page of antimedia.org. Meanwhile, people are at this company called Epicenter since January of 2015. They've just been getting chipped, just voluntarily getting chips placed in their thumbs that replace credit cards, ID cards, everything.
I can't even handle that one.
Shannon. That's huge. Like, that's a really big thing, and people are just gonna start adopting this because it's convenient. And that was, a couple of the quotes. A 25-year-old that worked there was like, "Oh, I want to be part of the future." But the co-founder, Peter something, said that. Basically, it's just more convenient for everyone. And that's what's going to happen. Everyone is going to have a chip in them, and they're going to walk around fighting. And oh my gosh, it's so crazy. This world is crazy, guys.
Yeah, and really all they have to do at this point now that we're slowly but surely moving toward a cashless society, which, if I'm not mistaken, Sweden's the prototype for that, are they not?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we already have a cashless society. So if you want to stay plugged in, it's just like with your debit card. The debit cards have a little chip in them now. So instead of swiping it, you got to insert the chip. Well, what if your debit card doesn't have the chip?
Right.
Well, you have no money. So so we move to a cashless society. Well, if you're going to get your money, then you're going to get your chip. So what's it going to be? You see where I'm going with this?
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, they're not even going to have to make it government mandated. It won't have to be, because it'll be private companies that are just going to now require this. So
hey, if you want your job, if you want a driver's license, if you want to get married, if you want to go, pay for your groceries, I mean, anything. If you want to do anything, you better have that chip. You're one of those that don't have the chip. Just kind of like the anti-vax people these days. Oh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You just go to the back of the line. We'll eventually get to you. Oh, you got the chip. Come on in.
Yeah. It's.
Yeah. That's how it works. I mean, I was standing in line at the grocery store the other day, and a fellow ahead of me was sitting there. He had a brand spanking new debit card. You could tell he was an older gentleman. You could tell by the way he was dressed. He's probably close to the age of retirement or at the age of retirement, and looked like he did, fairly well for himself. But he's sitting there swiping that card and cursing and hitting buttons and cursing, and finally reaches into his wallet and pays with cash. And I looked at him and I just kind of reminded him, that's how quick you can go broke in a cashless society. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
somebody hits a button, or suddenly there's a little glitch in the system. I've had it happen before. You ever gone to go use your debit card somewhere, knowing that you have plenty of money in the bank, and they swipe it and it's declined for some reason or another?
That happened to me last week because they thought that someone had gotten like my credit card number. I have no idea why. There was some kind of there was an iTunes charge. They locked my card out. They just completely locked it out. So I couldn't even get my balance, even though I knew there was money in there. I went to get gas, couldn't get gas, went in. I was like, I'll just go in the ATM and pull out cash. There must be something wrong with this gas pump. I went in to get cash and it wouldn't let me. And I'm like, well, this kind of sucks. Like, what do I do? So I just couldn't go where I was going to go that night. And I had to wait until the bank opened at 8:00 in the next morning for them to just reactivate my card. And
until then, you were broke.
Yep, completely. I was so angry. I was infuriated. It was last Thursday night.
I love this. That's awesome, because that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Here's something else I don't think people think of when you're talking about, and you're going to put chips in people, and that's how they're going to pay for stuff. As Shannon well knows, Birmingham is out of control right now with violence and this, that, and the other, and people getting robbed and all this stuff. What's going to happen when you get people walking around and cutting people's hands off and taking the chip and putting it in them, and they've got all their money?
Oh man, that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly happen in this town, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it worked or not, they would do it.
Or you can find people that are more technologically savvy, and they can learn how to hack your microchip and hack your information.
Oh yeah,
I mean, there's so many different ways to work that out. And then we're talking about doing retina scans, and then we're going to be doing retina scan and a thumbprint, and I mean, it's. And
they're going to but it's my chip, it's in my hand. It couldn't be fake. You watch. People be cutting people's hands off because people are insane.
Ugh, that's scary.
Yeah. Where can we move to? That's the question.
I want to move up there near. I want to move up there near Ryan Butcher in Alaska. That sounds very appealing to me these days.
Pretty cold though. There's got to be.
Yeah, man, I can deal with that as long as everybody just leaves me the hell alone.
Man, no kidding. Why can't people just live where they're at now and leave everybody alone? No, they can't do that. That's impossible. And social media.
How about we all band together and try to get everybody to leave us alone?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's supposedly what libertarians say they want to do, and then they put Gary Johnson up to run for president. So
libertarians are a nightmare.
Yeah, it doesn't work. The people that are
and I still don't get that. I mean, they had Berman Supreme, they had John McAfee, they had some of the biggest blockbuster stars there, and they picked Gary Johnson.
Yeah,
Gary was funny.
I even hate to say it, but even Austin Peterson was a better pick, and I really don't like that guy.
Yeah, the Libertarian Party was definitely a failed experiment. It was interesting, short-lived, and failed.
It's failed. I agree with that.
I don't know. I don't think they've realized it yet, but
no, they haven't. This would have been the year. I mean, this would have been the year to do anything, and they didn't. They ran Gary. I mean, he was definitely probably the funniest candidate they could have run, and since it is all completely theater, good for them. I got to see that guy make a fool of himself multiple times.
He was a walking clown car. That's all he was. He was just.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, when you got a guy like Berman Supreme, you had Berman Supreme up on that dais. I mean, you want to talk about clown car? He's like the zenith.
You had
remember the glitter bomb?
Hillary. You had him openly with his open connections to Mitt Romney, and he was just like, "Yeah, Hillary's clearly the most qualified person to be president." It's like, are you not on the ticket to run for president? You idiot! It's oh my gosh, I don't know how anybody takes it seriously. I really don't.
Me either.
That brings me back to Donald Trump tweeted out somebody in the WWE 2 days ago, or WWE 2 days ago. The president of the United States. It's a big, gigantic joke.
This is life now. This is our life.
Post-satire. It used to be the post-Kardashian world. Now it's just post-satire. That's the
and we pay for it. We pay for every single bit of it. Congratulations, America.
One way or another, that's the truth. For Josie, for Shannon, I am SM Gibson. We will be back on Thursday. Nick will be here tomorrow night. UCY Radio, Anti-Media Radio, out.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.